Welcome to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, the show with business titans sharing their stories of the highs and lows of entrepreneurship. Sit back, relax, grab your favorite glass of whiskey, and listen to the real and raw stories of these industry leaders. Now, here's your host, the man, the myth, the legend, the most interesting marketer, Jacob Fail.
All right, what's up, everybody? It's Jacob Fell, the most interesting marketer here, and today we have a very special guest. We have my buddy Josh Wilson, founder and CEO of JW Capital Partners. He's actually from my home state of Louisiana, and yeah, just happy to have you on, Josh.
Yeah, man, looking forward to chatting today, talking some business.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about where you grew up. So I'm from Slidell originally, and I understand the area, but tell me about your backstory, where you came from, how you grew up, all that good stuff.
Yeah, man. So I grew up in a little town called Kenner, Louisiana, right outside of New Orleans, and went there. I went to high school in New Orleans. Decided to do the college route down in Baton Rouge. Did that for about a year, and decided that. Yeah, man. I actually went to Baton Rouge Community College for 1 year, and my dad said that's enough. It's time to come back home, and I decided to come back home and started working for a property manager right out of college, and the rest is history. I opened up my own company a year later, and started investing in companies and real estate, and I've been an entrepreneur ever since.
Nice. So whenever you decided to work for that property manager, how long before you transitioned into owning your own property management company?
Yeah, it was about a year, man. I've always had like this urge to, be my own boss. All the way back to like when I was 7 years old. I ran a DJ production company, and it started out me just being a DJ. And then I was like, man, I was getting a lot of activity from like weddings and brides. And so I then started offering, photography and videography services and packaging them up and having like this huge package for like a wedding. And then I ended up having like my first exit at like 16, 17 years old, and sold that company to one of my employees and his dad. And that was a pretty cool experience for me. I mean, I blew through all that money. I was young. I didn't know what to do with all that money, and blew through all of it. But it was a great learning experience. It got me I was excited now to actually be an entrepreneur. And so that's essentially how I got started on that entrepreneur journey. And I really never have worked for anyone else my entire career. I've worked at a property manager company for about a year and learned the ins and outs of how to manage properties, how to evict tenants, how to sign leases, how to paint properties, how to handle maintenance, construction, all the nitty gritty stuff. I learned that, and then decided, you know what, I could do this myself. I could do this myself, and I went on and got software and learned technology. And I was young and hungry. We started picking up clients left and right, and then the rest is history. Then we started managing for other people, and then I started buying my own properties, which was even great. That was the end goal, right? Because at the time I felt like, with the management company, while I was still my own boss, I was still answering to clients, and it was that was tough because it was extremely demanding, and I wanted to have more financial freedom. And that's when I kind of pivoted and started buying my own real estate and build my real estate portfolio.
So how important do you think that it was for you to start with the property management route to going into investing in real estate? Because a lot of people, whenever they buy properties, because I own several properties myself, and whenever you buy them, you don't really understand like how to be a landlord. So how do you think that helped you like growing into
I think it helped me tremendously. I think a lot of people get into real estate and they don't know what the hell they're doing. They watch an HGTV show. Like, I mean, I've done the same thing. You watch Flip or Flop, and then most of the time people are flopping. You know what I mean? So I think that, it's huge for me to be able to learn how to lease a property, how to sign a lease, how to manage those tenants, how to collect rent, how to, be a proper landlord to make sure you're fixing things properly, how to, one of the biggest expenses as a landlord is turnover. And most people don't understand that when they get started. So our main goal was to keep the tenants in the property as long as possible, while periodically raising the rents to keep up with inflation, and not have turnover, not have that expense of a make ready, not have that expense of lost rent or to vacancy. So I think having that experience and seeing it on someone else's dime, watching other people, buy certain properties in certain areas and then be able to see how those properties perform was huge for me, because then I knew where I wanted to invest and where I saw the properties that were doing well. Right. So I would manage properties that were like a 10-plex and a 20-plex.
Yeah.
And I realized those were like maintenance hogs. And
Yeah.
so I was like, but I want to get the big building. So I did it anyway. And then I realized, dang, I was right. I should have just listened to myself and saw how I was managing the properties for the other owners, So then I kind of got out of that and I really went the single family route. The single family, look, that's a business that a lot of people, hate on, the single family investing. I loved it, man. I think it's easy. It's easier barrier to entry. You can get in and go buy stuff. You can easily dispose of it and exit the property because it's a single family home. You have a wide market. You can sell to investors. You can sell to residential home buyers. So you can easily dispose of the asset. But then also too, at the same time, your tenants stay a long time. So I love the single family route. I still invest in some single family homes today. I'm not saying I'm fully out of real estate, but I do a lot of M&A now. But yeah, single family is great, man. And I think it's a great way to kind of cut your teeth when it comes to investing in real estate.
Yeah, and we'll transition into the M&A stuff here in a minute, because I do want to talk to you a lot about that. The real estate, whenever you got into the bigger properties, what was the biggest issue? Was it just the maintenance, or was it handling the tenants, like all the
No,
requests?
tenants are easy. Maintenance was the biggest issue because that's where your profitability is, and you have one hot water heater, one AC that goes down that needs to be replaced. You're wiped out for months, And if you have debt on the property, you're definitely wiped out for months.
Yeah.
So, if you're only cash flowing, $300 a month, let's call it, after debt. Let's say hot water heater's $1,000. That's 3 months of income, 3 months of net revenue. So you're done. So that was the biggest thing for us, is trying to figure out how to manage those expectations of repair or replace. And how long do you band-aid? You know what I mean? Until you need to replace it. So that was the biggest issue for me.
And your strategy with that, you were using the Burr method, correct?
Yes, I burned my way to a $25 million real estate portfolio.
Nice. So can you talk a little bit about the Burr method? Because a lot of some people don't know about that.
Yeah, sure.
How that you scaled so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. It's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And so the way I got started is I worked as an NEMT driver, non-emergency medical transportation driver. I did that for about a year, saved up some funds, and I used those funds to help me acquire my first property, used as a down payment. And then once I was able to show that this property was performing, it worked, the method worked, I was able to refinance that property out. I pulled some cash out, and then I was able to do it again. But where it really scaled for me was I was able to show that process to other private lenders. And those private lenders were interested because they were making a handsome return, 12, 15% of their money. And they didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to own property. They didn't have to deal with tenants. They didn't have to do anything. So I would take the money I would use for the private lenders. I'd go acquire these properties. Sometimes I would acquire them fully cash, and then I'd go to the bank after I'm done renting it out and go refinance it, pull all my cash back out, pay off my private lender, and now I own the property 100% with debt from the bank. Then sometimes if it was a larger deal, like I remember buying a 14-plex I had, I used a private lender for the down payment, and then I would go to the bank to get the funds for the rest of it. And then I would do the same exact thing. Went in there, I think I did a 14-unit building, went in there, renovated every unit, and then sold and then refinanced it back to another bank, and then paid off that bank and the private lender. So that's what I did, man. I did that for like 10 years, just constantly grinding units. And I slowly got bigger in my on the unit size because I got more comfortable, right? I always say experience, builds confidence. So the more experience you are, the more confident you're going to get, and the more experience I had, I just kept going bigger and bigger. And so I think our largest acquisition was a 56 unit complex we did, and we did the same thing. We birded it out, but we sold off the majority of it this past year, and we're able to keep 2 of the properties. So it was pretty cool. And then, yeah, man. So we did that, and I bird that way all the way to $25 million, and with zero of my own money. I started out, did my first property with my own money. After that, I started using private money and just kept doing it. And I did the same thing for flips, right? So I do the same thing, and that's the other thing too. Not a lot of people talk about with the flips. I did the same thing. I used private money. I go flip a property. I go sell it. Sometimes I made money. Sometimes I didn't. So there were flips where I lost 50 grand. There were flips where I made 100 grand, So it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but in the end, you just hope that you make more money than than you're spending. And that's what we did. So we did okay in that department. I don't do a lot of flips. Now I'm very strategic about the flips that I do. But yeah, that's also something else I did. I didn't do much wholesaling, but it was mainly burr and flips.
Nice. So were you syndicating money, or you were just going straight to private money?
No, we just did straight to private money just for individual deals, and just said single promissory notes.
Nice.
And mortgages.
Yeah. So transitioning into the M&A stuff. So how do you think the real estate affected you getting into the M&A business? Do you think that it prepared you, or was it totally different?
No, definitely prepared me. I mean, there's a lot of similarities in real estate investing and there are in M&A investing. You think about it, you have a piece of real estate, a piece of property, and it's got a cash flow statement, just like a business does. And if you treat the real estate like a business, you'll do very well. And that's what we did. And so, when I transitioned to M&A, the reason why, let me tell you the reason why, the pain point was that the cash flow, right? I had $25 million of real estate, and I was barely pulling like 5-7 grand a month in cash flow. People are probably like, holy shit, how's that possible? Well, when you have 20-year amortization mortgages and, and then you get hot water heaters that bust and air conditions go out and maintenance is through the roof, you're not going to be able to pull a whole lot. So I was like, man, I got all this real estate, I got all this paper, but I'm not making any money. So I got introduced by a mentor of mine, and he showed me, business acquisitions. I took that same $150,000 that I was going to go buy a piece of real estate with and turn that into a 7-figure company. So that was the best damn investment I've ever made. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday on the phone, and that first company I bought in Orlando, I bought it for $350, put 175 down, 150 or 175 down. I can't remember, but we put that money down and financed the rest for 5 years. And we're about to pay that guy off here, I think, with next year. And when I bought it, we were doing like 30 grand a month. Now I think our highest month we did like a couple months ago was like 240. So that just goes to show you, man, like the power of M&A. And we've gotten paid back that 350 that we invested, or the 350 we paid for that company, probably almost maybe 8 or 9 times over, So it's just very powerful, man. And so M&A stuff is just, it's all about cash flow. So the way we operate now is we use the businesses to create the cash flow, and then to help us to decrease our tax bill at the end of the year, because that's going to happen. You need some help because you're going to create all this cash. We then turn that and try to invest it back into real estate, to alleviate some of that tax burden. So that's what we're doing.
So whenever you're doing this, are you buying just for cash flow, or are you buying to sell, like to private equity in the future?
We're buying for cash flow right now. That's on the radar. We got to get over $5 million of EBITDA in one specific vertical, and we're a little far off in one vertical to get there. So, that is the end goal, right? You want to be able to do that. We have some businesses in non-emergency medical transportation, some in the med spa vertical. And so we're trying to figure out which one we're going to really dive into. Private equity, selling to private equity is great. A lot of people are talk about that. I think it's a fantastic, great way to build wealth. But it's something that's on our horizon, but it's not something that we're actively, we're like looking at today to be able to exit. It would be, years and years down the road.
Yeah. Tell us about your biggest loss, whether it's with real estate or whether it is with like purchasing a business, like maybe you had
Man,
kids at risk or
I got a story for you, Jacob.
Yeah, all right.
I was full of piss and vinegar. This was about 3 years ago, and I was doing well in real estate. We started unloading some stuff, and I bought a medical testing company in Miami, Florida. And the first day I bought it, and went to hell in a handbasket. It was supposed to be like my golden egg, my golden goose. I was supposed to be making like 100 grand a month off of it. I was so excited, so blind, just so like blind to all the red flags that I saw. And I bought that company, and I bought it for 1.9 million. I gave the guy $1 million down. I raised a whole $1 million while I was on a cruise with my family. And I was very proud of that because that was my first time I've ever raised that amount of money, and I raised it in a week. And then I bought that company, and I know there was due diligence mistakes that I made that I'll never do again because I have a great team now. But 1.9 million, gave the guy $1 million. First day we bought it, we did like maybe $500 in sales, and I knew something was wrong because he was doing like 10,000 a day in sales. And needless to say, bought the company. There was some fraud. We sued back and forth, yada, yada, yada. We settled out of court and lost $1 million, man. But I will tell you, there is a lesson in all of this, in that I lost $1 million. I paid all my investors back. They never lost one penny. And they got their interest and everything. They never lost anything. Second to that, I ended up buying another company, bought another company in Boston. And the crazy part is that I had reviewed this company in Boston prior to buying this company in Miami, and I turned it down. At this point, now I needed another company because I was dying. I was bleeding. I was paying attorneys 40, 50,000 a month. I was losing like 20, 30,000 a month from this deal. And I was dying. Like, I was hurting bad. So I was like, I need another company. I had some cash, and I knew I didn't want to just use the cash to keep, I needed cash flow after, I'm sorry. So I had cash, I needed cash flow, and I was bleeding cash flow on the other side. So this company came around. This company was doing like, I don't know, they were doing like 60, 70,000 a month in net cash flow. And I'm like, man, this could be my stopgap to help me get through this point while I can close down the other company. So that's what I did. I ended up buying this company, and I did my due diligence, and I trusted the guy a lot that I bought it from, and I really did. I trusted him a lot because he helped me buy another company. And man, it was the best damn decision I've ever made. I bought that company in Boston, and I remember the guy at the time, he was hurting in cash. He was hurting the same way I was because he needed this company because he had a flipping business that wasn't doing well. So he was using this company to kind of support his flipping business. So he needed out. He needed to get out. He needed some cash, and he needed to move on, and needed somebody else to take over. So that's what I did. I put like 150, 200,000 in the account for capital. I gave the guy $150,000. I assumed his $1 million SBA loan at the time, which people probably think I was nuts. I just lost $1 million, and I'm now assuming more debt. And but best damn decision I've ever done. That company does 7 figures a year in cash flow, and it was great. But one cool serendipitous moment was I met the guy that I bought it from at the Bank of America. We were transferring over the bank accounts, and I walked up to him and I shook his hand and said, "Hey, how you doing, man? Josh Wilson, thanks so much. It was, pleasure doing this deal with you. You've been great." And he was like, "Man," he's like, "Josh, you're an angel." And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "You saved me from losing my house." And it's crazy because I kind of looked right back at him and I told him, "Well, you saved me from losing my house." So it's crazy how the universe puts two people together that needed each other at the right time. And he needed me and I needed him. And it kind of worked out perfectly.
Yeah. And I believe, that everything happens for a reason. People come into your life for, some type of reason, they're put there. How important, I don't know if you're of faith or anything, but has that been a part of your life as far as like business?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been raised Catholic. I'm not a practicing Catholic, but I do believe in God and believe everything happens for a reason. And the man upstairs, will take care of business. And, sometimes you just got to let go of control and see where the chips fall. And that's probably the hardest part for me, is that I'm a control freak when it comes to that stuff. And so, but some days I just give it to him, and say, you know what, it's all you, man. You just let me know, tell me where I need to go.
Definitely. Now, let's take a step back here. If you were to lose it all tomorrow, would you recommend someone to buy a business, or would you recommend someone start with real estate? What would your advice be? Like
Oh
if you
man,
start over
yeah.
from scratch.
I would go raise private money and go buy a company. I mean, it's the easiest and fastest way to create cash flow.
Yeah.
100%, without a doubt.
So would you just like syndicate money and then become a general partner and what is it, GP?
No, I would know, because here's the thing with SBA, right? With SBA, you can go buy a deal with 10% down, or you can go owner finance a deal. There's plenty of those deals out there that owner finance. I would go raise the 10%, and let's say, for instance, you're going to buy, typically you don't want to buy $1 million business. It's probably too small. But let's say you buy a $2.5 million business. It's 250,000. You go and find either two partners or one partner that's got 125 each, or one person's got 250, and bam, and go and go buy a $2.5 million company. You're 2.2 million in debt on a 10-year note to the SBA, and that company's probably going to produce to you about, if I had to imagine, about 700,000 a year in cash flow. So after you take out your debt, that's probably going to be about 300, somewhere around there, maybe a little bit less. So you're making 400,000 a year, 500,000 a year in cash flow off of that $250,000 investment.
Wow, that's changing my mind a little bit on some things. Because I'm about to exit one of my businesses, and I'm exiting some real estate. So
yeah,
talk about ownership in other states. So like now you're owning in Miami, you're owning in Boston, you're owning in Orlando. How has that been for you, like operating? Like obviously you
yeah.
have to be a pretty good operator. There's key man risks there, you have to have SOPs, stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about the operations and
Yeah, I mean, look, I feel like it's not for anyone. For the if somebody that comes into this, you gotta have balls. Realistically, you got to take a risk. And for me, I've just always been a risk taker, and I feel like I know what I'm doing. I have an incredible team. We have a great CFO, great COO that works alongside me every single day. They're like my right hand woman and man. Like John and Ara are fantastic people. I attribute a lot of our success to them and the way we operate. So I think if you're buying your first company, I didn't have those people. It was just me all by myself. So when you buy your first company, you're going to have to be more hands-on. Now I'm still hands-on, but I'm hands-on in a different way. I'm raising capital now. I'm signing on the loans for the debt. I'm basically like the personal financial statement to continue to grow these companies. I'm the face of the companies. I help out with systems and processes. Sometimes we have roadblocks, or we have to put out fires, from a customer. They usually handle that on the forefront. But if it's a really big deal, then I get involved and I can give them some guidance. I'm involved on the leadership calls every week that we have. So I'm there to mentor and guide and grow and be responsible for make sure our companies are growing. That's the key, right? So I forgot what your question was, but I hope that was a good answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer for sure. Like having the SOPs, scaling it, running it, having to run it from other states.
And I think I was going to say, Jacob, the biggest thing is I think people, a lot of people are they're scared of going to another state to run a company, and it's not that scary. Once you do it one time, you're like, that's the reason why we own companies in all these different states, is because you do it once and you're like, technology is so good today that you're able to be able to connect. You got to have people in place, right? It's a people business. But once you can utilize the technology, we do Zooms every week. I mean, we're monitoring our cash flow. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do remotely. Like my CFO, he lives in Indiana. My COO lives here in New Orleans with me, but my CFO John, he's in Indiana, but I don't need him to be here in New Orleans. I wanted to hire the best of the best. And he could work remotely with our full back office accounting team. So that's another thing too. Don't try to look for talent in your own backyard. Expand your search, get the best of the best you can get, and they can work remotely and still manage and handle it.
Gotcha. What was the biggest piece of advice that you've gotten from a mentor or a friend or family member? Like what is that one piece of advice that you've gotten that's helped you scale to the next level?
I would say, my grandfather used to always tell me, do what you say you're going to do. I know that's very cliche. You probably hear that a lot, but that's one thing I always try to stick by. And sometimes, look, I'm going to be honest with you, man, I'm human. It's hard. I have a lot of things getting thrown at me every single day, and but I always try to make sure that I'm living up to what I say I'm going to do. And so, and that means sometimes saying no, right? Because sometimes I know I just can't do it. And I used to be a people pleaser. I used to be that guy that was trying to say yes to everything just so that I wouldn't offend someone. But now, if there's a deal I don't like, if there's something I'm not interested in, something I don't want to do, I just say no. And probably gonna hurt some feelings, but unfortunately, I don't care anymore. And that's kind of the attitude you have to take, especially when you want to grow and you want to continue to scale. Because when you start growing, you start scaling, man, people are going to come at you left and right, whether it's good and bad. You're going to have people that aren't going to like you and they're going to come at you, and people are going to like you and they want to steal your time. So just do what you say you're going to do. And if you can't do it, make sure you say no, so that you're always, under promising and over delivering.
How important has relationships been in your growth as far as like relationships
Huge.
with other people, raising money?
Huge, man. Oh my God. We just had an investor party in New Orleans.
Nice.
We invited a bunch of our investors, a bunch of our current investors. We invited some potential new investors. And I think it's all, and this is one thing I didn't really do a whole lot of back in the day when I was raising capital, because I wasn't raising as much capital as I was then. Now I'm starting to raise more capital. I'm realizing the cost of relationships, right? I mean, we have season tickets to the Pelicans, right? And I give those to, sometimes I'll take my kids, but sometimes I'll give them to clients, or I give them to capital investors, team members. Like, the relationship building is huge. Being able to connect with people on a different level outside of the office is huge. And I never really did a whole lot of that prior to probably the past year or so. But this past year, I've really ramped up at raising capital, and it shows, right? Because I'm building the relationships. And I think it's huge. I think it's massive. And I think you definitely need to nurture and build those relationships, keep your investors happy, and get them outside of the investor office environment where it's all stuffy and legal paperwork. Get to know them on a different level, so that you guys can develop that relationship as friends, possibly, and then let them invest with you, and they trust you.
Nice. So with that, what is your goal for the companies? Raising for cash flow and then investing in real estate on the side and doing like cost segregation to lower tax liabilities, or what are all the?
Yeah, you got it, man. I mean, that's pretty much it. That's what we're doing right now. We're raising money for capital for more deals. Like right now, we have 4 contracts, 4 deals under contract, 3 in EMT companies, 1 med spa in California, and I got 2 others right now that we're working on with 2 other potential partners. That's another thing too. So if anybody in your audience or anybody out there is looking to do a deal, and you think you're an operator or think you have a deal, send it my way, man. Because what I can do is we can partner together, and I can raise the money for the deal, get the debt, and and we can do the deal together. And that's how I'm doing it with some of these folks. So and it's a win-win for both of us, because I can't do all the deals by myself. It's just impossible. So we need other people that want to join us, that want to be an operator, that want to get some equity, utilize my balance sheet, utilize my financial statement, my expertise, my holding company with our C-suite, our back office accounting. We got a lot of things that we can add value to it. We've done it before. We got our attorneys, we got our CPAs, we got our quality of earnings people. There's a lot of different moving parts, the people that we work with that can help and do these deals. So.
Nice. So if someone does want to invest, does a typical deal look like for you? Because I know you're mainly in the NEMT and the med.
Yeah, a lot of people know me for being in the NEMT stuff, but I do other deals other than that. So, and I will do other deals other than that. And so if you have a deal and it's anywhere between 3 to 5 million, maybe I'll go to 2 million, depending on the deal. 3 to 5 million is really the sweet spot. And that's a purchase price. And if it's doing anywhere from, let's call it, a million, at least a minimum of $1 million a year to 2 million a year in cash flow, that's what we want. So you can find something like that in that price range, send it my way. We'll take a look at it. We'd ideally like it to be around 10 years in business. Have a management team in place or some type of management staff at some level. And we can hire and promote from within or bring in outside people to run the management. But that's it. That's what we're looking for. We will partner with you. We'll bring the money. We'll get the debt. You just got to be able to operate it. Make sure you have some experience. Don't. Here's another thing. Don't bring me a deal in the healthcare industry and you are you're a truck driver. You know what I mean? Like you're not going to be able to be an operator in that. So, bring me something that you have familiarity with, that you're experienced in, it, and we can definitely help you and partner with you on that deal.
Have you ran into key man risk, like having someone leave and then like the business kind of turns?
Yeah. So we had an employee we let go a couple months ago. And he was our sales guy for a few of our companies. And, we thought it was going to really snowball and hurt us, but we had to make the change and we did it anyway. And I give kudos to our COO. She's been steadfast in making sure that our sales aren't hurting and keeping on the GM. So, yeah, this key man risk, it happens. But you just got to make sure that you're unwavering in making sure that that doesn't affect your sales or affect your operations or whatever. And we also have a lot of redundancy in our system. That's one thing I'm huge on. So one person leaves, doesn't matter. We can plug and play, move somebody else in. So that's the advantage of having GMs in multiple locations. We can plug and play. Even having a COO can step in as a GM, temporarily until we find the right hire.
Gotcha.
So key man risk happens, but here's the thing, Jacob, is that you want to make sure you buy a company that's big enough where you don't have key man risk. Most people buy too small.
Yeah. Now, hypothetically, let's just say that someone has 500 to 800 grand and they wanted to invest. Would you recommend just going to like buy, biz, sell and trying to buy a business? Like, would you recommend, because like people get burnt on some of this stuff by not doing due diligence. And with your team does all the due diligence. They go through everything. And also with that, how big of a business could you buy with 500 to 800 grand cash?
500 cash, you can buy a $5 million business. 800K SBA caps you at 5 million anyway. So just It's not worth it even to go up to 800 unless you're putting some working capital in the business. But yeah, 500,000 will get you a $5 million business. It's probably churning about 1.5 to $2 million a year in cash flow. So at the end of the day, $5 million business is probably going to cost you about 500 to 600,000 a year in debt. So let's call it 500,000 a year. So let's say you're churning out 1.5 million. You could literally be making $1 million a year in cash flow. And let's say you want to keep a $500,000 in the account, every year to pad it up. Mm-hmm. You can pull a $500,000 salary, so
nice.
on $500,000, so it's a great,
so would you recommend that over real estate?
For cash flow, 100%. You're not going to build, you're not going to build asset wealth with it. You need real estate, so I recommend take a portion of that money and dump it into real estate and get some debt on that too. And buy some real estate, buy some maybe commercial buildings if you can, or, something that requires less management so that you're able to really kind of rinse and repeat and have another stream of income without you having to actually actively work for it.
Do you normally acquire the real estate with the business that you buy for the most part?
No, generally speaking, it doesn't work out. The numbers don't match up. Usually sellers want too much for the real estate. It kind of waters down the deal. And so we try to work out something with a lease for them, or maybe a lease purchase, so that in the event down the road we want to buy the building or something, we'll do so. But the deals that I've seen, the real estate really waters down the numbers.
Nice. So what type of legacy do you want to leave behind? Like, are you leaving a legacy, for your family? Are you just building for cash flow just because it's fun? Like, what type of legacy do you want to leave?
Man, I'm torn. I don't think my kids, I don't know if they have any interest in taking over these companies. But they'll have the option, that's the idea, is that they'll have the option to figure out what they want to do. When I pass and I'm gone, they'll have that option to figure out whether or not they want to liquidate or they want to stick on and hold on and ride these things out. But, right now I'm building for cash flow and for fun. This is fun to me, man. I wake up every day and I get to do what I love. And I have a great team that I do this with. And yeah, man, this is what people dream about doing, and I'm living it every single day.
Nice. A couple wrapping up questions here. One of the things, what is the dumbest thing that you've ever spent money on? Like, just because.
Oh man. Dumbest thing I've ever spent money on. I would say I don't know. I don't know if I call it dumb, but you know what I do? I'll call it dumb. I leased an Aston Martin.
Nice.
I did that a couple years ago, and that was really stupid.
Yeah.
I was just, it was not practical. It was a 2-seater. I have a family. At the time, I had a family of 4, so I could only take one person with me anytime I drove it. It was a great car. It was fun, but after like 3 months, it wore off, and I was like, man, I'm stuck with this thing now for the next 3 years, and it is what it is. But it was pretty dumb purchase. Looking back, I would never do that again. If I did it, it would just be for like a secondary car. That was my primary car, so that was pretty dumb.
But can't you write it off if you use it for business purposes?
I did, and I wrote it off. But man, at the end of the day, it was like I could only take one kid with me, or my wife at the time, and it didn't make any sense, So, but in the beginning, it was great. It was fun. I was cruising around first couple of months. I was like, man, this is awesome. And afterwards, I'm like, we wanted to go to go to an event or something, and I was like, okay, well, we have to take 2 cars. It was stupid. So
yeah. What's a guilty pleasure that you have that you probably wouldn't expect?
Oh man, I love to travel. That is and I think it comes from like within me, of the freedom that I yearn for. I think every entrepreneur has that, like that freedom. That's why I do what I do, is for the freedom. I'm here right now. I'm in my condo at the Four Seasons in New Orleans, and I came down here today, and because I felt like coming to hang out. I felt like coming down to the city and want to do this podcast with you. And I don't know, man. I like having that freedom. So my guilty pleasure is definitely traveling. I love to travel. I love to have that freedom to be able to do what, God willing, what I'm able to do. So
yeah. And what's a habit that you swear by that most people would call crazy, or like some type of thing that's ingrained in you?
Oh man, I'm just a hustler, man. Like my brain doesn't stop. I'm always thinking about deals. I'm always thinking about new ways to create income. I'm always thinking about, more ways to incentivize my team. I'm addicted to this stuff. So, I love it, man. But there are other things I could be addicted to, and this is probably one of the best ones. So
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, how do people reach out to you if they want to do a deal with you? If they
Yeah.
want to connect with you, what's the best way to get
Yeah,
a
man.
hold?
Go to our website, jwenterprise.co, jwenterprise.co. You can go there, fill out a form. It's got a free business valuation form. So if you got a business you want me to look at, fill out the form, send it to me, and I'll take a look at it. Otherwise, you can follow me on social at The Real Josh Wilson on Instagram and on Facebook.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast today, Josh. Thanks for being here. Next time I'm in New Orleans or around there, we'll have to go grab dinner or something.
Yeah, man, that sounds great.
All right, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. See you.
Thank you for listening to the Whiskey with Winners podcast, your home for real and raw stories of industry titans. Make sure to click the button below to subscribe. Follow our journey on Instagram at Most Interesting Marketer and Anchor, Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Remember to always stay humble, stay hungry, and stay focused.
Everything that I'm saying is out of context. Wait, it's not even really a contest. See, if you already know, then I'm next. Looking at a bodybuilder like Y-Flex. I'm dope in the pot like it's Pyrex. And I do it big just like a T-Rex. A T-Rex, I'm the best to ever do it. You know could be so dope when he float to the fucking music. Like, this shit is nasty for real. Yeah, I'm dope. You don't even have to ask me for real, man. Damn, I think I'm going long, I'm going hard. Woo. Who you know could come up with the bars? I'm a shooting star. I shine bright in the fucking night, and they can't tell me that I'm doing wrong. I do it right, like I'm at the top. So who you know could really top that? Yeah, and tune in to the podcast.